Okay, so finally I am going to review WWF No Mercy. Now this game was released in the fall of 2004 on the Nintendo 64. It was made by the same developers as its predecessors, Asmik and Aki, and it was also published by THQ, like its predecessors. So this was the last wrestling game for this series. According to Wikipedia, they were planning to make WWF Backlash, but Nintendo retired the Nintendo 64 console, so it was cancelled. It's one of those things that will always make you wonder, what if? Now keep in mind, I have not played this game before, so this game has no nostalgic effect for me, which is the reason I think why people do regard this as the best wrestling game ever. At least partly because it has a nostalgic effect to them. So, enough talking, let's just get into it. Okay, so now for the introduction. It's pretty interesting, you got a whole lot of wrestlers' names flying across the screen, kind of like the Matrix effect I suppose. And then it has a WWF logo spinning slowly towards the screen. Interesting. So then you have a bunch of animated clips of WWF compiled together, which is kind of like the typical intro for these Nintendo 64 wrestling games. Still pretty cool to watch. It ends with The Rock's catchphrase. So now you have the menu, and this part it seems to be called multiplayer. Never seen a menu called that before, but I suppose it works. So as you can see, you have the exhibition, Royal Rumble, pay-per-view, King of the Ring, guest referee, ladder match, and Iron Man match. A nice selection for the time. Pushing across takes you to the single play area where you can choose the championship mode, which is pretty much like the season. And as for the survival mode, I hope that is self-explanatory. Pushing across again takes you to the commissioner area where you see the SmackDown Mall and options, but more on this later. So let's start off with the singles match. I'm going to go to exhibition, which allows you to choose even more matches, so there is no complaining about the number of matches you can choose from. Although the music isn't personally what I would choose, but it's not really a big deal, is it? One player versus CPU. So you can see there are a lot of main arenas to choose from, which is great. So you have to set the rules, which again is pretty self-explanatory stuff. Oh yeah, and you can choose to put the belt on the line in exhibition apparently. So here we have the selection screen. Still kind of obviously typical. I mean, you put the top guys first and then gradually the mid-carders and then so on. I'm going to go with the traditional Triple H, and don't worry, I only ever used him once in this review. It has some of the details below, so it's not a bad selection screen either. So here we have the versus screen. You know, I think Jeff looks good, but Triple H looks kind of strange to me. I mean, his face kind of reminds me of one of those stone faces from the Easter Island. The entrances are pretty much the same. You got their music and some pics from the Titantron movie, posing and then walking to the ring. Although they don't step into the ring like they did in WrestleMania 2000. Okay, now for the gameplay. So one of the first things you'll notice is that the graphics have improved considerably. But the gameplay remains the same. The speed of the gameplay is good. They still have the bars at the bottom and change color. And it also lets you know when you can do your finisher. Although I couldn't help but notice that the AI seems to be a bit more smarter in here than they are in the other games. Okay, so moving on to the championship mode. Like I said before, this is a season if you want to call it that. You can see the titles you can choose from. Now apparently each of the titles have a different storyline. So there's a number to choose from. Let's just see what the WWF title is like. So you choose a wrestler and I go for The Undertaker this time. So we start off the Royal Rumble qualifying. There will be a qualifying match for the Royal Rumble. If you win at the Royal Rumble, you will make it to WrestleMania for a chance to be the World Wrestling Federation Champion. Cool. So I'm facing Taka Michinoku. I remember him. He used to be a tag team partners with Funaki. Kaientai, I think. So the rules are not selectable, which is fair enough. So beating Taka is pretty easy. So I got some money, which brings me to chapter 2, the Royal Rumble. So you have Triple H making his entrance, in which I like the water bowl and the belt. Overall, I like the detail on this entrance. You know, he talks on the mic and tells everybody what they're fighting for, so yeah, you have the storyline. It seems pretty interesting, but for the sake of the review, I didn't go any further than this. I just wanted to test the waters in the championship mode, so I gotta say, so far it seems pretty cool. So yeah, so far I am liking this story mode. So here we have the SmackDown Mall. You have superstar options, shop, and data. In the superstar options, you can edit a superstar, create a superstar, clone a superstar, change stables and stables names. So let's try out the create a wrestler mode. You have blank boxes, which is cool. First thing you'll notice is the profile and music tab. Now you can edit the name, the short name, the alias, and the picture, adjust height and the weight, choose your music and Titantron. Pretty cool. So next you have the appearance, and holy crap, look at all this. I gotta admit, this goes into a lot more detail than I thought it would, which is great. I guess you can make him look like whatever you want with such detail. You can make him look pretty much whatever you want him to. Him or her. Now for the moves, and again, this is done very well. You can see what each move does and what each move looks like. I mean, I didn't think games this old had that kind of feature, so that was great. So the next tab is the fighting style, which gives you the options that you normally wouldn't think of, or at least I didn't, like the reaction to blood. The parameter tab is like the attribute points in the SmackDown games, so that's pretty self-explanatory. The next tab is pretty obvious. You can choose your rivals and allies. So overall, the Create a Wrestler system is really good for the time, and still kind of holds up today if you ask me. Okay, now for the shop. The money you earn from the championship mode, you spend in here. You can buy a lot of clothing parts and attires. There is a ton of stuff to choose from. Same with the moves, there are a lot of moves to buy as well. And a fair amount of locked wrestlers to buy, like Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, etc. But 500 grand for Ho? I don't even know who Ho is. Now, you can also buy more arenas and weapons as well, so there is a hell of a lot of things to buy, which means you better play the hell out of the championship mode, because it's going to take a long time. So basically that is it. Now the weapons are good. I especially like the ladder match, that was a lot of fun. And the cage match was pretty decent as well. You know, I'm always surprised about how much I like these wrestling games. So overall I give WWF No Mercy a 9 out of 10. I actually do see why people regard this as one of, if not the, best wrestling game of all time. So I hope you like this review. It's been a long time coming, but it was worth it. Don't forget to subscribe please, and take care. Adios.